right, so today we're starting a new month. Hooray! A new theme, new topics, new beginnings. Talking about the way of the heart. So of course, we're going to do one of our favorite songs this month as our opening song, which is Let the Way of the Heart. So if you would like to stand and sing, you're welcome to do that. We don't have any words in the programs yet. But it's real easy. Let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart shine through. Light upon light, light upon light upon light. All hearts beating one, all hearts are beating as one. Love upon love, love upon love upon love. Shining bright as the sun, shining as bright as the sun. Let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart shine through. I'm sorry, it's love upon love. Love upon love upon love. All hearts beating as one. All hearts are beating as one. Light upon light. Light upon light upon light. Shining bright as that sun. Shining as bright as the sun. One more time. Let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart shine through.
Good morning. Yeah,
Good morning.
it's so good to be here. It's so good to start seeing people returning that we haven't seen in some time. My name is Susan Clutis, for those of you who don't know my name. And a little bit of trivia. Every person that you meet whose last name is Clutis is related to me. And I'll bet you don't know any others. On behalf of Reverend Donna Maurer and the Board of Trustees, I am privileged to welcome you to the Sonoran Desert Center for Spiritual Living. Whoever you are and wherever you are on your spiritual path, you are truly welcome here. You will be validated, supported, and encouraged to be all that you are meant to be. Our vision statement is love in action every day, in every way. We express this love by learning and living the principles of the science of mind. You'll find our declaration of principles at the back of your program. Please join me now in reading them. I believe there is an infinite intelligence operating throughout the universe. I believe this intelligent power is only good. I believe this intelligence operates as me. I believe through my conscious use of this power, I create my life as happy, healthy, and complete. And so it is. I would like to thank those who are assisting to make this morning possible. And I think we're all helping, but Bruce was being our greeter. Wanda has really helped us to do the seating arrangement so that we're in conformance, and we appreciate your help for that. Gray is always there helping us be on board. And Heather, thank you for your music. Please direct your attention to the announcements in our bulletin. If you're watching us online, please visit cslaz.org for our announcements and events calendar. Thank you. If you haven't already, please take a moment to silence your electronics. Thank you.
Yes. Surprise, I'm back.
We're glad.
Oh, yes, so Dee and I are back here for a week. We've been traveling and doing some business, so it's so wonderful to be here, both of us. Dee said, "No, we're going to be there for Sunday, aren't we?" I said, "Yes, I have made that plan." And Donna sent me the topic for the month. I talked to her a week or so ago. Well, I said, "Do you have a topic?" She said, "We're not done with May yet." No. So, but she let me know what the topic was. So I carefully wrote out everything I wanted to say and then left it on the couch at the Airbnb where we're staying. But I've been thinking a lot about her topic and about this idea of from the heart miracles. And just what does that mean? And so I was digging around in a few of the books that I found in a suitcase I picked up, and I found a piece by Ernest Holmes that I think anyway it touched me in thinking about it. So anyway, I'm gonna read it to you. He writes that during the past 50 or so years, business and professional men, and especially educators, and please excuse the gender identity in this because it was written a very long time ago. So there is much attention given to a person's intelligent quotient. So how high is his or her IQ, said one of the first questions asked when a person was being considered for a job. So this was done to ensure that workers were given jobs which suited themselves and their employers most satisfactorily. However, any good thing can be carried too far. Any virtue may become a vice by overemphasis, and this might have been the case with regard to IQ. Hard-headed employers came to see that a person's IQ is not maybe so important as his or her PQ, personality quotient. And this is what now a lot of employers started looking for, considering not only an IQ, but a PQ. So does someone make friends and get along with people, with the public, with their co-workers? Will they be an asset to the company, not just brains, but also in how they interact with everybody else? So with this view, authorities at a major university decided to take a survey. So they picked out the 100 men with the highest IQs and then just kept
track of them, but also in the graduating class that day, they picked 100 people known for their PQ, or personality quotient. And these were people whose academic standing was, well, it says right here, mediocre. One of my father's favorite words. They barely succeeded in passing, but they were really well liked by the other students and the professors and the staff at the university because they were just lovely, kind, gracious people and loving. So they decided that since it generally takes 5 to 7 years for a professional person to really develop his or her career, or in this case his, they decided to let this study go on for 10 years. And at the end of 10 years, they went back and looked at these people, and the personality quotient people had better jobs, had more satisfaction, and were making 3 times as much money. Well, now, isn't that kind of interesting? So from a place where you can come from your heart and your head, I mean, it is all connected, means that you can have what it's considered to be a much more successful, certainly, career. So you can have a better job and higher paying and bigger title and more responsibility and all those kinds of good things because of this PQ. So Ernest Holmes goes on to say that you need to be transformed of your mind. And we all know that. We know that in science of mind. Change your thinking, change your life. Because that thinking can also change that heart. And where you put your attention can be on that heart. And I thought that was just such a great story. So the other little book that I happened to have in my luggage was by Emmett Fox. And he tells the story in there that they were in Quaker country. And there were a number of people in the general store, and this one fellow acknowledged that he had just moved here from someplace else. And someone said, and he said, well, what kind of people can I expect to find here? And this one Quaker fellow said, what kind of people were back where you came from? Oh, he said, they were horrible and mean and malicious and unkind and untruthful, and went on and on and on. He said, you're going to find those people here. And another fellow said, well, I just moved here too. And this guy said, well, what are the people like where you came from? Oh, he said, they were the most kind, generous, loving people that I've ever come across. He said, you're going to find those people here. So I think that is a miracle of the heart. And I look and ask all of you to consider that. Where are you coming from? Are you coming from a heart space, or are you coming just from that intellectual space? One's not necessarily always better than the other, but it can be. So if you will join me now in getting ready for our invocation, and take a deep breath, close your eyes if you'd like, wiggle around in your chair if you like. And as we are coming together here, we know that there is no conflict between our mind and our hearts. We know that miracles come, and they come from our intellect, but they really come through our hearts. And as we all are here together, knowing that this service is the wholeness and perfection of God, exhibited by each of us here. And I am so grateful for Reverend Donna, for the other practitioners, for our AV people, for our music and Heather, for all of us that are here. And we know that this hour and this day and our lives unfold with wholeness, health, perfection, joy, and abundance. And so it is.
Pay attention to your heart. It's a miracle that Spirit is with us, acting through us and with us. And as us pay attention to your heart, Spirit is there, and it's a miracle. Spirit is always acting through us and with us and as us, and it's a miracle.
Good morning. Well, it's June, and it's hot. So I think it's a good choice to move back here when we did, you know. So, but I've been watching the clouds this past week. There were several times that the clouds got pretty high in the sky, and I found out that the monsoon season officially begins June 15th. Did you know that? Yeah. But most rainstorms don't begin until after the first part of July. But I've got my fingers crossed because it's really been dry for an awful long time. So, as it's been said, we begin June with our new theme, The Way of the Heart. And our topic this morning is From a Loving Heart, Miracles. You know, A Course in Miracles tells us that miracles occur naturally as expressions of love. And Marianne Williams takes it a step further. She says, miracles occur naturally as expressions of love. The real miracle is the love that inspires them. In this sense, everything that comes from love is a miracle. And in doing this talk, I came across an inspirational quote that said, open your heart and invite God into every circumstance, because when God enters the scene, miracles happen. And since love is a synonym for God, I changed it to open your heart and invite love into every circumstance, because when love enters the scene, miracles happen. You know, I believe, and we've talked about this before over the years, that we are in the beginning chapters of a new story. And I think that there is a shift, and Ruth talked about, there's a shift from a purely materialistic or intellectual way of life to a belief that there's something greater than, and more important, than to die with the most toys. You know, to die with the most toys, I mean. Because I think that this new story is about our spiritual evolution. It's a reappraisal of who we are and why we're here. And since love is a synonym for God, we cannot express our highest self, which is the expression of God through us, without loving ourselves and loving each other. What holds us back from loving ourselves is the story that we've engaged in from our material world, the world of lack, of doubt, of criticism, and of separation. What holds us back from loving ourselves is holding on to fears, resentments, experiences from the past that we feel were not resolved, or at least not resolved in our favor. And what holds us back from loving ourselves is our fear of the future, our fear of the unknown, which keeps us in a state of trying to figure out our next optimum move for success. And it also includes our fear of failure that keeps us from taking risks, from saying yes to an adventure because we don't want to fail or look silly in front of somebody else. But we have some spiritual antidotes to what holds us back. The antidote for holding on to past resentments and fear of future failure is the same for both. And it's simply that we must learn to live in the present moment. Present moment thinking requires us to let go of those experiences from the past that we have not forgiven. Marianne Williamson, in her book on aging called The Age of Miracles, says forgiveness isn't just about being nice, it's about being spiritually intelligent. We can have a grievance or we can have a miracle, but we can't have both. So if we think about it, forgiveness is ultimately more about our own serenity than it is about letting somebody off the hook. In fact, when we harbor resentments, we are keeping the hook in our own mouth. That other person may not feel anything, but we're going around with it. So, and the antidote for fear of the future and the failures and dilemmas it might hold is to trust in a power and presence that is pure love and that loves us more than we can ever imagine, and that always knows what to do, when to do it, and how to do it if we tap into that. So when we surrender to that unconditional love, we feel a peace that passes all understanding, and we can stand in any situation with a grace that is really unexplainable. So the antidote for a story that no longer works for us is our choice to see the material world as an illusion and the world of love as real. We can choose to see a world of connection in which all of God's love abounds and manifests in peace, joy, harmony, and abundance. Charles Eisenstein, in his book, The More Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible, calls this interbeing. And I think that original interbeing was coined by Thich Nhat Hanh. But Mr. Eisenstein believes that as we begin to see a new story, cracks in the old ones appears. He says, as a story ages, cracks appear in its boundary, in the shell of the cosmic egg. A miracle is the name we give to the light that shines through from a larger, more radiant world. It says that not only reality is bigger than we thought it was, but that bigger reality is coming soon. He goes on, it's both a glimpse and a promise. To the extent that we ourselves are living in the realization of interbeing, we too are able to become miracle workers. Have you ever thought of yourself as a miracle worker? But you are. You are. What you send out into the world are the miracles that go out that you may never see, but somebody else does. Somebody else does. Miracles transcend the laws of this world, and that's why we can't force them. You know, I just re-looked at The Secret. It was good for its time, but it's not good now because it's all about getting things. You know, I mean, the guy's in his recliner shifting gears on his invisible Porsche, you know, and it's like, this isn't the world that we want to create, because we want that world to come from love. So that's why miracles can't be consciously directed, no matter what The Secret says, because they occur as involuntary effects of a loving heart. So when we relinquish those fears that block the love within us, then we become that channel through which the miracle can operate. When we transform, we step into the realm of unconditional love, where they, the miracles, dwell, then they become our natural allies, drawing themselves to us. And to me, this is truly the essence and the truth of the law of cause and effect. Mr. Eisenstein has outlined several ways in which we can be the conduits for miracles, and I'm going to talk about a couple of them today. The first one, when one experiences the world as abundant, then acts of generosity are natural, since there is no doubt about continued supply. It's our very nature to be abundant. It's our natural state. Our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, says the universe is abundant, unlimited in every respect. If it were not unlimited, it would have depleted itself long ago. Life would have exhausted itself, law would have ceased to function, love would have lost its power to harmonize and to heal, and thought and consciousness would have retreated to instinctive reaction. Instead, what do we find? The fish in the ocean lay so many eggs that if they all hatched, the waters would overflow all the lowlands. The stars in the heavens are beyond counting. The grains of sand on the beaches are innumerable. The leaves on the trees continue to multiply. Nature is lavish, abundant, extravagant. So when we become part of this consciousness of abundance, then miracles appear, not from some supernatural arena, but because love has entered the circumstance. You know, when I was in ministerial school, I've told this story before, but it fits here. When I was in ministerial school, I had the privilege of having Dr. Rocco Errico as my teacher on the New Testament. He was a student of George Lamsa, who gave us the Aramaic version of the Bible, and he's had a page in the Science of Mind magazine for as long as I can remember. But when Dr. Errico was speaking of the miracle of the loaves and the fishes, he told us that in those days, people had many layers of clothing, and they would carry food hidden deep in the layers of that clothing. So he felt that when it was time to feed the people, that one person out of love came forth with his hidden food, and that triggered others to do the same. In other words, the miracle of the loaves and fishes was about love showing up as a desire to share with others, which created an overflow of abundance so that there were baskets left over. And Dr. Errico also said it doesn't mean that Jesus couldn't have performed a miracle by himself, but why would he when his whole message was about loving each other and experiencing that love as abundant life? So it's from that consciousness that experience the world as abundant that generosity can be the avenue that opens channels for miracles. And we begin to experience those miracles in our life in unique and amazing ways. You know, we don't have to manipulate anything. We don't have to worry or try to make things happen. But good stuff shows up. When we lead with love, good stuff shows up. We think about buying something at the store and a friend comes along with a gift and it's that exact same thing. Or we found an error in our counting and we have more money in the bank than we thought, so we can take that vacation. You know? And every one of us, if we would just write them down, every one of us has our own little set of miracles, of little things that have happened to us throughout the years. Yeah, I remember when my ex-husband lost his wife to cancer, and he was devastated. And in his morning prayers, he asked for a sign that everything was going to be okay. And that same morning, he was walking down Sunset Boulevard when a lady was pulling out from the parking garage that he had just passed. And she called him over, and she said, "I really feel silly, but I feel compelled to tell you that God loves you." And that was the sign he needed. Just that sign. And thank God that woman had the courage to say that. This was not something that she did normally. Another way that Mr. Eisenstein suggests in you I can be conduits for miracles, he says, when one appreciates the order, beauty, mystery, and connectedness of the universe, a deep joy and cheerfulness arises that nothing can shake. And I think, you know, I watched astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson. I think he could be a poster boy for this statement, because he speaks with such passion and joy when he says, the atoms of our bodies are traceable to stars that manufactured them in their core and exploded these enriched ingredients across our galaxy billions of years ago. For this reason, we are biologically connected to every other living thing in the world. We are chemically connected to all molecules on the earth, and we are automatically connected to all atoms in the universe. We are not figuratively, but literally stardust. So being in nature is probably one of the best ways to appreciate the order, beauty, mystery, and connection and connectedness of the universe. Certainly one of my favorite things is to look at the stars on a moonless night and just see how they, living in Los Angeles for almost 30 years, I never saw stars until the night of the earthquake when all the lights went out. I finally saw the stars. But they're here, and I love to just step outside at night and just see how close they are and how beautiful they are. I believe we stay close to nature and to those things that nurture us spiritually. Wisdom literature, beautiful music, poetry, art. That we are in touch with something that are greater than our senses. And it's this connection with that something greater that keeps us grounded, so when that bad stuff happens, we can turn to that something greater and feel that sense of peace. And we can see the miracles that come from this appreciation. Our relationships with others carry more patience, more happiness, more gratitude. Anything unlike love moves out of those relationships. Fences are mended, friendships deepen, and what we thought was someone we had to tolerate becomes a friend. And again, you and I have all had those experiences. Because when we consciously bring love to any situation, we bring the transformation. And that's the miracle that comes from a heart of love. And the final suggestion I want to cover today is when one lets go of the story of the discrete and separate self, amazing intuitive and perceptual capabilities emerge from lifelong latency. And so Mr. Eisenstein, as I said earlier, believes that we as an entire civilization live on the edge between these two stories. And many of us sense that the story of separation is giving way to a story of unity and connectedness. It hasn't happened completely, but we can glimpse it. And something happens when we live a life of connection, when we see that we're all one, we're each an individualized expression of the one, then our experiences reflect that connection. And I am so grateful to Science of Mind and other like-minded philosophies that are on the cutting edge of this new story. You and I may not be around to read the final chapter, but we're the ones that are shaping its contents. And I think that's an important place to be. And the more we let go of the old story of separate self, the more we realize the truth, the real truth, that love is the only authority. And where do we find that truth that shapes the new story? Mr. Eisenstein says we find it in the body, in the woods, in the water, in the soil. We find it in music, dance, and poetry. We find it in a baby's face and in the adult's face behind the mask. We find it in each other's eyes when we look. We find it in an embrace, which is, when we feel into it, being to being, an incredibly intimate act. We find it in laughter and sobs, and we find it in the voice behind the spoken word. We find it in fairy tales and myths and the tales we tell, even if fictional. We find it in silence and stillness. We find it in pain and loss. We find it in birth and death. So as we move from this old story of separation to one of connection and wholeness, we again place ourselves in that realm of miracles. And our intuitive capabilities, which were latent, begin to flex. And the more we trust these inner urgings, the more we find things happening to us that seem miraculous to those who are stuck in the old story. In other words, as we look at each and every experience through the eyes of the new story, the things we used to experience as mundane become sacred. and we see the miracles in everyday acts. Everything becomes our teacher. Everything becomes our teacher. We had the most beautiful snake out here. We heard an eek from the salon. As Gail opened the door to step out, and then she called one, and she said, "Look out your window, but don't come out." And we did. We looked out, and there's this gorgeous. We think it's a bull snake. I mean, I don't know how 5 feet. It was a good sized snake, but you know that was a miracle. This guy is so beautiful. We decided he was beautiful, and we also had Doug take him, relocate him. But for a moment, we all just kind of stood in awe of this beautiful snake. We can look at fairy tales. If you think about Beauty and the Beast and see that the prince, under the spell of that separate world, the old story, lived as the beast until Beauty's unconditional love broke that spell and restored him to his true self. To me, that's a metaphor for the whole new story. And isn't that what we should be about? To see the hugeness of love and its healing abilities, to be a part of it, so that we bring to each moment that restorative process for our planet and for each person on it. And shouldn't we, like Beauty, do our best to see what appears to be vile, repulsive, even devastating through the eyes of unconditional love, and thereby become vehicles for its transformation? And that's the business of the miracle worker. That's you and me. That's you and me. That's our job. And the miracles that occur naturally as expressions of our love will be the gift and the legacy we share with the world, because that's the way of the heart. Thank you. Namaste.
Once again, there are so many choices for songs in that one single talk. So thank you for making my job easy. But I'm going to stick with my original plan, even after all of that inspiration. And I'm going to play my own song about miracles. That is from my 2020 EP, The Journey. This is a song called Don't Miss Your Miracle.
Looking forward, looking back, keeps your heart and mind in lack. A single-minded vision sets the heart free. Busy hands, a busy mind. You don't think you have the time, but you'll find that if you close your eyes and breathe, just like a butterfly embracing all its beauty, from a chrysalis of shame you will awake. Just be still and know that in that present moment, the universe will show you the right route to take. Don't miss your miracle. Don't miss your miracle. It all is possible if you trust and believe that miracles are made by you and me. like a moonbeam dancing on the water. Your imagination casts a shining net. You were born to create and you can't help it. We are all one spirit manifest. Don't miss your miracle. Don't miss your miracle. It all is possible if you trust and believe that miracles are made by you and me. Don't miss your miracle. Don't miss your miracle. It all is possible if you trust and believe that miracles are made by you and me. That miracles are made by you and me.
Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, Heather. Okay, it's time for our offering, and I think Bruce and Wanda are going to be our ushers this morning. Little by little, we're getting back to normal. So I want you to join me in our offering affirmation. My gift goes forth to heal, prosper, and bless all that it touches. It is evidence of my conviction that God is the source and substance of my supply. I share generously of my good, knowing that it returns to me multiplied abundantly, and so it is.
Gratitude before me, gratitude behind me, gratitude to the left of me, gratitude to the right of me, gratitude above me, gratitude below me, gratitude within me, gratitude all around me. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful.
Thank you so much for your generosity, which allows us to be here and be our spiritual family and to share with others. I was telling Jeff when they came in that I had an interesting experience. We've been buying our groceries and having Safeway deliver them. I mean, come on, it's $3.95. So yesterday they delivered a ton of groceries that weren't ours. You know, like 8 pounds of cheese. I mean, it was, somebody was going to have a party. I know that. But anyway, I called Safeway and they said that's okay. We don't come and get it. We repick it, and we can tell. Thank you for calling, because we can tell that by what's in the order who's got mixed up, so that they can redo it. But that left us with 8 pounds of cheese. And yeah. But I brought it into the church because I'm going to call Mauricio, because I noticed that the Amado Food Bank is going to be closed because they're resurfacing. So I thought, well, hey, that would be the perfect place. So I'm going to give him a call this afternoon and see if we can meet tomorrow, and I can get rid of our 8 pounds of cheese. And I don't know what else there was, a whole bunch of stuff. But I was so grateful that we could pass it on. And so I think gratitude seems to be the theme that's kind of rolling through this week, because I'm so grateful that Ruth and Dee are here. I'm grateful to see Jose and Nyla back. It's certainly good to see Gia and Lynn. We just, again, we're little by little, we're getting back to normal, or at least a new normal, and I'm very, very grateful, very grateful. So in that mode, let's just take a moment to close this out in prayer by knowing that there is only one God, there's only one mind. It is the mind we use, and the attributes of God, of this one mind, are love, truth, beauty, joy, harmony, peace, abundance. And made in that image and likeness, made from that divine power and substance, we are all of that. So this week, as we go about our day, let's take a moment just to remember that we are the miracle workers. And we are because we share our love, our joy, and our peace. And for anyone experiencing a challenge, I know that the love of God is right in the midst of that, bringing forward a healing. I give thanks for the opportunity to be here today, to be with my spiritual family, to be in my spiritual home, and to know that all is good and very good, as we say together, and so it is. Thank you all so very much.
If you'd like to circle up like we did last week, you could do that. Why not? Spread that peace around the world. So let there be peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. I am a stand for love. Let there be joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. So let there be peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. I am a stand for love. Let there be joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now.